to be a woman that knows herself, trusts herself, loves herself, and above all else, backs herself. And when you have that as the center of your DNA, of your world, you're unfuckable with. You are immovable. It is becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm going to press play. I'm going to start the business. I'm going to launch. I'm going to try. I'm going to show up. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to take the step. No fucking matter what. Welcome back, everybody, to yet another episode of Anything Goes with Anna Rose. I am riding solo this episode. I hope that's okay, friends. I hope that is okay. I am jumping in today to share something that is really hot on my heart. And I think something that I trust, whether you are in business or not, is going to land for you, be relative for you, inspire you, activate you, motivate you, do whatever you need for it to do for you to elevate your life. That is why I show up on here. That is why I give my time on here. That is why I try to be consistent. Not try. We are consistent now with the Monday podcast, which I'm absolutely loving. But it is the 3 tips or the 3 biggest lessons that I have learned in business over the last decade, now actively running 3 of my own companies. So let us dive in, friends, to tip number 1. Now, this may come as no surprise to anyone, but the number 1 thing, lesson, ethos that I have developed over the last decade in business and life, to be honest, but is to be a woman that knows herself, trusts herself, loves herself, and above all else, backs herself. And I just think that if you do not have that in business, cultivated deep cellularly in your DNA, there will be moments where you will get knocked down and you will not get back up again. And that is what you do not want. That is why I genuinely believe, what is that? The statistics are wild, but like 95% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. And I just think it's because of that. Obviously, they don't, it's numbers, it's budgeting, it's not putting tax aside. It's all of the strategies and semantics that come with running a business. But I just fundamentally believe if you worked on your whole self as the whole human, your being, how you then do, how you then act, your doing as a human being comes from that place, that deep cultivation of knowing yourself, trusting yourself, backing yourself, and loving yourself. And when you have that as the center of your DNA, of your world, you're unfuckable with. You are immovable when it comes to trials, tribulations, fuck-ups, failures, which I don't believe in, which is tip number 3. You are just immovable. You are impervious. And you become this force of nature that you know yourself. You love yourself. You trust yourself and your decision-making, and you back yourself. So whether it comes to sitting at the table with people that feel intimidating to you, whether it comes from making hard decisions in business, whether it comes from needing to show up on days where it's really fucking hard, whatever the case may be, you do it. And you do it from a place of groundedness, of centeredness, of love, of power, because you know, trust, love, and back yourself. And I just think if you, as a human in general, worked on this ethos, you will improve your life infinitely. So that is step number 1. Know yourself, love yourself, trust yourself, back yourself. How you do that is just showing up every single day. It is moving the needle forward. It is making decisions that feel hard. And it is growing, which is tip number 2. It is becoming, it's growing, it's growth, but it is becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm going to say that again. Tip number 2, or lesson number 2 in business for me in life, but business, it is becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable. Now, I don't know where you were at in the life cycle of business right now. It could be the seed of beginning. So this is just an idea in your mind, which I'm so excited for. And I really hope that you pull it out of your mind and create something of it that is like the most spiritual shit you could do in your life. I don't know if you are a couple of months in, a couple of years in. I don't know if you are currently earning like a couple of $100, a couple of $100,000, a couple of $1,000,000. I don't know if you're scaling, you're decreasing, but wherever you are at in business, if you get comfortable with being uncomfortable, you will unlock levels and layers for yourself that you cannot imagine. Because, yet again, just like lesson number one, you become this immovable force of nature. So when a knock comes, you take it on. When you get knocked down, you'll get back up. When you are scared to take a step, you can look fear in the eye, give it a wink, say fuck it, and move forward. And you need a backbone in business. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I can absolutely relate it heavily. For example, even when it wasn't my own companies, in network marketing, let me tell you the amount of time I like was forged in the fire with network marketing. I've built, it's no secret, everyone knows the story, but I built flat out full time for 8 years in network marketing, put myself in the 0.1% in the world globally. I retired at the top. No, I'm still pulling income from that passively 3 years later. But I literally was forged in the fire of network marketing because you cannot get a more misunderstood profession if you tried. And everything you do feels uncomfortable. Calling people feels uncomfortable. Showing up when you don't feel like it feels uncomfortable. Making cold calls feels uncomfortable. Reaching out to girls feels uncomfortable. Everything you do feels uncomfortable. And yet doing that again and again and again and again and again and again yielded me over $2 million cash in network marketing in bank. That's not sales or anything like that. That was money I earned over the course of my building life. So it works. Getting uncomfortable, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is one of the greatest things that you can do. And I am constantly challenging this in my own life. We all know last year when I became a solo skydiver, which I still love throwing myself out of planes, but that was the next level for me, right? Because I was comfortable and I was like, in my life, nothing really scared me anymore. Speaking on stages doesn't scare me. Going live on Instagram doesn't scare me. Starting companies doesn't scare me. Scaling companies doesn't scare me. Looking people or haters dead in the eye and telling them to fuck themselves doesn't scare me. Nothing scared me anymore. And I knew to launch and scale a global company. In my opinion, this is not truth for everybody, but for me, in my body, I knew that I had to push myself uncomfortably to go to a new level. And for me, that comfortability of uncomfortableness came from becoming a solo skydiver. So when I tell you that you have to become comfortable being uncomfortable, I am the embodiment of this. And I'm sharing that example so you see what I mean by that level, new devils, new level, new devils, new level, new devils. You have to constantly push and stretch yourself. And what I knew was scaling, and it was my first product business as well. So in business, I've done all service-based. Isogenics was the network marketing company. That was product. But realistically, I sold a service because I sold the products, but I didn't create them, ship them, hold them. The company did that for me. So really, I sold myself, right? You sell yourself as the brand. So that to me was service-based. Self-Love School was service-based. Ultimately, it's an online educational platform, which was my first company. My second company was the Awakened Woman, which is the NFT that I created in 2022. It's not service, but ultimately it's a non-fungible token. It's an online token. So I don't have a product per se. And then my third company, which was TAW Collective, which is TAW Collective, which I love and adore, and it takes my whole soul and my life beautifully. That was my first true product-based company. And I knew that it was going to be a challenge. I knew that it was going to take all of me, not just some of me. I knew that I was putting myself in an arena and an industry that I knew nothing about. I knew that I was going to come up against new objections, new limitations, new everything. And I knew that as the woman that I was in that moment, feeling comfortable, that I needed to stretch myself and become uncomfortable again and get comfortable in that uncomfortability to reach a new level. And again, that's exactly why I threw myself out of a plane. So when I say get comfortable in being uncomfortable, I could not emphasize that enough. And I really want to say as well, it doesn't need to be skydiving, right? It doesn't need to be that extreme. Getting comfortable in being uncomfortable right now for you could literally be a health goal, right? And which, in my opinion, if your health isn't right, if you are not prioritizing your health, if you are not feeling vitality and radiance and wellness and all of the functionality and mobility in your body, if you're an able, healthy person, I'm not speaking to everybody, obviously. There are people that don't have that access like many, if not most of us are blessed to have. But I'm saying if you are an able-bodied person and you are not feeling radiant, vital, healthy, mobile, focus back on that, right? And this could be the level that you start to play at, the level of becoming comfortable in your uncomfortableness. It could be setting the alarm early. That's uncomfortable. 5:30 a.m. if you're used to 7 a.m. and no alarm is uncomfortable. But when you start to get more comfortable in that uncomfortableness, when it's cold and you get up, when the alarm goes off and you don't want to, when you go to the gym and it feels like scary, that's what I'm talking about. And when you develop yourself as an individual to that level and you make those hard choices again and again and again, you create an identity that is new and incredible and powerful, and you become the person that you were always born to be. This is so much bigger than business, but these are just my business lessons. Okay. So number 1 was to know thyself, love thyself, back thyself, and trust thyself. Number 2 was to become comfortable being uncomfortable. And then number 3 is all about, I forget. Number 3 is there is no such thing as failures, only lessons. So my quote that I always say is that I don't fail, I either win or I learn. So many people, 95 plus, 99, but let's stay in a very limited number, 95% of the population never take the first step because they are terrified of failure, which is wild to me, right? 95 plus, more, it's more. But 95% of the population will never take the first step because they are terrified that they will quote unquote fail. But I fundamentally believe that there is no such thing as failure. You either win or you learn. Failure doesn't exist, in my opinion. Now, things can fuck up. Absolutely. Things can fail, right? Quote unquote fail. You can have a catastrophic failure, quote unquote. But realistically, firstly, every redirection is a lesson always. But also, it's a lesson. Maybe you learned how to not do it. Maybe you learned that actually you're not meant to be in business with people. Maybe you learned that actually that profession just wasn't for me. Maybe you learned that business wasn't for you. I don't know what it is, but all I know is that the people that try, the people that show up, and the people that take the first step, terrified to do so, knowing that they might fail, are the ones that have the most success. And I know for me, when I was choosing to pursue TAW Collective, which was just this I was just this bright-eyed, bushy-haired, like I am literally right now, but bright-eyed, bushy-eyed gal who, like I said, had no business being in the fashion industry. Ultimately, I had no experience, and I own the shit out of that. I'm proud of that fact. I had no prior education in it. I haven't done a fashion degree. I haven't done anything like that. I had every single limiting belief that you could possibly have thrown at me, just like in NFTs, just like in everything I've done, just like in network marketing, everything and anything I've ever done. Everyone has said, you can't do that. You don't know. You're not qualified enough. Put all of their own shit onto me, some well-meaning, some not. And I've just said, fuck it. I'm going to win or I'm going to learn. And I'll tell you what, I have won more times than I have learned, but I have learned a hell of a lot along the way. I have learned more lessons, I can tell you, than probably most in my short 36 years of life. But I have along the way created and now scaling 3 incredible companies that impact thousands, if not tens of thousands of lives. I have created a business model that has never been done in the world because I had the audacity to know that even if it quote unquote fails, I'm like, I'm going to win, I'm going to learn, I'm going to win, and I'm going to find a way. No matter what, I'm going to find a way. And I have co-created along the way the most extraordinary life for myself. Now, if at any point I had have sat there and overthought it and literally talked myself out of it, thinking, fuck, maybe I'll fail, I never, ever would have said yes to network marketing. I never, ever would have had the balls to launch Self-Love School. Like I remember at the time I was thinking, who am I to literally create a self-love school, but an online school that I believe that every woman on earth should do. I had no interest then, even then, creating an online school, essentially. And then who was I to enter the crypto world when I had when I say I had no experience in that, I had a lot of history for sure. But again, every objection under the sun, and people were like, you cannot, you're going to launch in a bear market, you'll launch into a Web2 community. And I was like, I'm going to win or I'm going to learn. Like, I'm going to win or I'm going to learn. Like, keep your failures. I'll take my lessons or my winning. Thank you very much. And then again, with TAW Collective, as I said, I was only ever going to win or learn. And I'm doing both right now. Every single day, I'm winning, I'm learning, I'm winning, I'm learning, I'm winning, I'm learning. But what I never do is think I failed. And that's I believe if you looked at all successful people, I've read most of the greatest minds in the world. I've read almost all of their autobiographies, and almost every single great in the entire world, this is one of their lessons. I don't believe in failure, only lessons, right? And so for me, I'm like taking big risk and showing up in big ways and putting myself out there when other people wouldn't, and taking the first step even when it feels scary. I am going to win or I'm going to learn. I never look at it and think, if I did that, then I might fail. If I press play, then I might fuck up. If I show up, what if no one comes? I'm just like, I'm going to press play. I'm going to start the business. I'm going to launch. I'm going to try. I'm going to show up. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to take the step. No fucking matter what. So they are the 3 lessons. There is like a million, and I'm sure I will write a book one day on just business lessons that I have learned as I continue to launch and scale. However, above all else, please take from this, write it down, like chant it to yourself every single morning, put it on a piece of paper, put it on the mirror, understand that the 3 lessons, the greatest lessons that I have learned in business over the last decade are those 3. Know yourself, trust yourself, love yourself, back yourself above all else. Understand that there is no such thing as failures, only lessons. And I'm already forgetting the second, whatever the second one was. It's been a long day. But friends, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you got what you needed to out of this, even if it was one tiny piece of like a line that I said. All I know is the way that I show up, the fierceness that I show up in, the consistency that I show up in, the lady balls that I have in the way that I show up is all to do with those 3 lessons. And I hope that you take them. I hope that you adapt them. And I hope that they help you in some way, shape, or form. So I will leave it there until next week. I hope you have a beautiful week. Always remember, it is a beautiful day to have a beautiful day. And as always, stay wild. Thanks so much for tuning in. And as always, I hope you got something out of this conversation that you can use to challenge your own status quo. If you liked what you heard, it would mean the world to me if you shared this episode on your socials to help get this podcast more out in the world. Don't forget as well to tag me personally at @thereal_Anna Rose so I can thank you personally. If you're also loving the conversations, leaving a review on iTunes by going to the podcast, scrolling down and clicking leave review will help even more amazing humans that need to find me and these conversations find me. As always, though, I am eternally grateful that you're tuning in. And until the next episode, know that I am always cheering on your sovereignty and success.